I woke up before the alarm on my birthday. That happens when you stop expecting surprises from life. The room was quiet, filled with the slow breathing of the man lying beside me. Richard, my husband, the man I had shared my bed with for over 3 decades. I turned my head slightly and looked at his face. Calm, relaxed, the face of a man who had carried a secret for 30 years and still slept peacefully at night. I didn't feel anger, not anymore. Anger is loud, impatient. What I felt was older than that, colder. I slipped out of bed quietly and walked to the window. The city was waking up. Cars, lights, life moving forward, unaware that tonight my marriage would officially die. Richard stirred behind me. "Happy birthday, Ellie," he murmured, half asleep. "Ellie," I smiled at the glass, not at him. "Thank you," I said. In the kitchen, I made coffee like I had done every morning for years. Same mug, same routine. Consistency is how lies survive. Richard walked in, freshly showered, wearing that familiar smile everyone trusted. "I planned something special for tonight," he said casually. "A small dinner, some people are coming." "Some people," I nodded. "That's kind of you." He slid a small jewelry box across the counter. I opened it. A necklace, expensive, gilt wrapped in diamonds. I put it on and kissed his cheek. "It's beautiful." He didn't notice how steady my hands were. Years ago, a woman had called the house asking for him. She hung up when she heard my voice. Richard said it was a wrong number. I believed him because belief was easier than truth back then. But belief doesn't erase patterns, money leaving accounts, time unaccounted for, trips that didn't add up. I learned to watch quietly. I learned that silence gives you time, and time gives you power. By evening, the house was filled with guests. Friends laughing, wine glasses clinking, people telling me how lucky I was. 32 years and still in love," one of them said. I smiled politely. Love is not measured in years. It's measured in honesty. Richard kept checking the door. His foot tapped nervously. He stood up, cleared his throat, and asked for everyone's attention. His voice shook just enough for me to notice. "There's something I need to say," he began. "Something I should have said a long time ago." The doorbell rang before he could continue. The sound cut through the room like a blade. Richard froze, every head turned. He looked at me, panic flashing across his face. I nodded gently, "Go ahead." He opened the door. A woman stood there, around my age, tired eyes, straight spine. She had the look of someone who had learned to survive disappointment. Behind her stood a young man and a young woman. Both had Richard's eyes, his mouth, his truth written clearly on their faces. "This is Maria," Richard said, his voice barely holding together. "And these are my children." The room collapsed into silence. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered my name. Maria's hands trembled. The children stared at the floor. I stood up and smiled. "I know," I said. Richard looked at me as if I had slapped him. You know." "Yes," I replied calmly. "I've known for a long time." Maria looked at me, confusion and fear mixing on her face. The guests didn't know where to look. Richard's mouth opened and closed, words failing him for the first time in his life. "I never meant to hurt you," he said weakly. I walked toward him slowly. "Sit down, Richard." He did. I turned to Maria. "Please sit," I said gently. "You're not a guest here, you're part of this story." She hesitated, then sat. The children followed. Richard looked like a man watching his carefully built world burn without knowing where the fire started. I reached into my purse and took out a small velvet box. "Since today is my birthday," I said, "I thought I should give you something too." Richard swallowed hard. "What is it?" "A gift," I replied. "Open it." His fingers shook as he lifted the lid. Inside were documents, divorce papers, DNA results, bank statements, property transfers, court filings, 30 years of preparation wrapped in silence. His face drained of color. "What is this?" he whispered. "This," I said calmly, "is the truth catching up to you." Maria looked at the papers, then at me, her eyes filled with tears. "You knew," she whispered. "Yes," I said, "and I made sure your children would never suffer for his choices." Richard stood up suddenly. You planned this, he accused. I survived this, I corrected him. Planning came after. The guests began to leave quietly, one by one, uncomfortable with witnessing the collapse of a lie they had admired for years. Richard tried to speak, to explain, but there was nothing left to explain. Lies don't need closure. Truth does. Later, when the house was empty, Richard sat alone at the table, staring at the papers. I never thought you were capable of this, he said. I looked at him for the last time as my husband. You never thought I was capable of knowing, I replied. That was your mistake. Outside, the city lights glowed. It was still my birthday, and for the first time in decades, I felt free.